All right, everybody. Next up on the main stage, we've got a really exciting talk by Lionsgate Entertainment. They're going to be talking about the LIONSGATEway to the future of Hollywood XR. Lionsgate responsible for, they're making some really incredible experiences from brands like Hellboy, Power Rangers, Five Nights at Freddy's. They've done a Fortnite and John Wick crossover. So really excited to see what they're doing with XR and entertainment. So please welcome to the stage Lucianne Tan, Jenefer Brown, and Gene Rogers.
Let's do it.
Woo!
All right. Good afternoon, everyone.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us as we take you through the LIONSGATEway to the future of Hollywood XR. So I'm Jen Brown, and I oversee global live, location-based, and interactive entertainment for Lionsgate. And I have two of the executives on my team joining me today. Gene Rogers,
hello,
who oversees production and operations for our live and location-based entertainment projects around the world, and Lucianne Tan, who's the executive that oversees our games and interactive business. So for those of you that don't know much about Lionsgate, I assure you, you know our content. As you can see on the screens behind me, our content consists of some of the most well-known franchises in the world. We are a world-class film and television studio based in Hollywood. And we also are home to Stars, which is a premium subscription platform. So in terms of the studio, we have more than 17,000 titles in our library. We're also the largest portfolio of film and television franchises among any independent media company, and best known for film franchises like the Twilight Saga, the Hunger Games, Saw, and John Wick. Also for TV series like Mad Men and Orange is the New Black. And we have classic titles like Dirty Dancing that are evergreen properties for the studio. In terms of Lionsgate, we are in our early 20s. Most of our Hollywood counterparts are hitting the century mark or have already hit it. And much like Gen Zers, we at the studio sort of embrace a very entrepreneurial culture. And innovation is really a big driver for us. And so we're excited today to share with you some of the projects that we've launched around the world that really embrace that innovative spirit, especially when it comes to XR, and also sort of fan-generated, user-generated content, which is another space that we've been playing in. In terms of our group, this is a look at some of our live and location-based entertainment projects that we've launched and opened around the world. This is just a handful of them, but gives you a good flavor of the type of work that this part of the team is doing. And really, the through line across all of our projects is creating immersive, engaging experiences for fans, giving them a full ecosystem that they can engage with the world's stories, characters that they love. And so whether that's an outdoor theme park, like our Lionsgate zone at the Motion Gate theme park in Dubai, or something that is much more cutting edge in terms of the Hunger Games, the exhibition, which is an experience that we have at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. And you can see by the visual, it's a physical archery experience that sort of puts guests into the role of shooting a bow and arrow, but it's paired with the world's largest interactive video screen. And it's gamified, you play as a team, and it's really a first of its kind experience. We also have been a leader with escape experiences. We have two in Vegas, the Saw Escape, as well as Blair Witch. And then we've done a lot in the immersive live entertainment space. There's an image here of Secret Cinema. We've done Dirty Dancing with them for many years, and really we're one of the first studios to partner with them. And the idea behind Secret Cinema is really to create immersive screenings. So you build the environment of the film, in this case, Dirty Dancing. We recreated Kellerman's, for those of you that have seen the movie, and guests come dressed of that time period, get to engage in all sorts of activities that you would find at the resort, and then screen the film in a really immersive way with sort of walk-arounds and cars that drive in. So it really puts you inside the world of the films. The other kind of side of the team, and both of these teams within our team work very closely together, is the games and interactive piece. Here we've done quite a bit in the VR space with brands like John Wick, Blair Witch, Saw, and most recently we did a first-of-its-kind activation with Call of Duty. We did a crossover Halloween event with them last year, and again this year with our Saw film franchise. So if any of you are horror fans, you may have participated in their first ever Halloween event. In terms of the way we approach our games and interactive projects, it really is about finding partners that are kind of pushing the envelope in terms of the types of experiences that they're creating. Not just cross-platform, but thinking about how we can extend what we're creating in the game space to build the world of these IPs. But then also use that content to feed into other areas of the business. So, when I talked about the escape experience earlier, and Lucianne will get into this a little bit later, we took elements from the Blair Witch game and integrated them into the escape experience. So it wasn't just solely based on the films. And so we're really looking across all of these mediums of entertainment to feed into each other. And again, for us, it's really about creating that ecosystem. So one of the projects that we wanted to take a deeper dive into today, and I think will be really interesting to the audience here, is Lionsgate Entertainment World. So this is a first-of-its-kind vertical indoor theme park. It's located in a place called Hengqin, China, which is very close to Macau, but on mainland China. And what sets this apart is it really throws kind of the normal expectation of a theme park out the window. It's almost hard to describe it without seeing it, but we're going to do our best today. It's built over 4 floors, and the idea was in high traffic areas where you don't have a large footprint, how do you create the most expansive worlds possible for guests to engage with? And a big piece of that is using XR, right? Because in a very economic way, we can take you inside the worlds of our films and our TV series in a way that feels incredibly expansive. And so you'll see as we take you through some of the attractions in this experience, just how we've used XR and also how we've overcome some of the challenges that the location-based entertainment industry, theme park industry has sort of faced in terms of integrating these technologies into their rides and storytelling experiences. And when you think about Lionsgate Entertainment World, I wouldn't view it in the traditional sense of a theme park, because really what it is, it takes all of the best aspects of a theme park, but also has an escape experience, a physical challenge course, numerous virtual reality attractions, all the things, food and beverage, retail experiences, all the things that kind of you would find in multiple locations, and puts them all under one roof, creating really kind of an ultimate experience for the way that fans are engaging today. So I'm going to turn it over to Jean Rogers, who's going to walk you through some of the innovative attractions in this space.
Okay, so sticking on this slide, there's a few things that I wanted to point out here. We have a few interactives. You can see the gentleman on the left, I believe, jumping. So those are actually body tracking cameras where you're doing like an endless runner type game. And then we also, which isn't pictured here, is we have a Divergent VR backpack experience where you go through and you experience the fear simulation that franchise is known for, but now in VR, where you go through a series of fears, testing your mettle and seeing if you can make it through. And then the two really big innovative ones that we focused on were these two in the middle. So the bottom one there with all the people in the headsets on a roller coaster, that is actually the first ever purpose-built VR roller coaster in the world, where we took the concept and the brand of Gods of Egypt, and we bring you into that world. And the way that we help enhance that experience is you actually, unbeknownst to the rider, you actually go through the entire roller coaster twice. So you'll go through the loading station at speed, wearing your headset, and everything where in the past a lot of roller coaster VR was an afterthought. It was put onto a coaster to increase its longevity, to bring in people that have been on that coaster for years and years, and to kind of allow that coaster to have a little longer life before they needed to replace it. This was always purpose-built for VR. So that vanishing point where sometimes if you got on a VR coaster that wasn't thought out, would make you sick if you start looking around. Everything in this is tuned. We have very few people getting sick on the system. It's really only if you start doing something really crazy like turning around and trying to look behind you while you're trying to ride the roller coaster where you might start feeling that motion sickness. But for the most part, we've had zero issues with motion sickness on this ride. So then the main attraction that we want to go through today, and the one that had the most innovation to it at Lionsgate Entertainment World, is the one that you see with the motorcycles in the top. So this is our Twilight Saga Midnight Ride, and we're actually going to show you a teaser video.
Lionsgate presents the Twilight Saga Midnight Ride, the world's first multi-rider interactive virtual reality experience, now open as a major theme park attraction. Based on the Twilight franchise characters and settings, be transported into a motorcycle thrill ride adventure of a lifetime with Jacob and the Wolfpack. As you make your way through the Pacific Northwest forest, helping draw out and defeat a menacing vampire threat, you and your friends set out to defend the city of Forks. Combining the latest in VR and simulator technology, along with a patented and sanitized VR HMD and display hardware, be a part of the next level in immersive entertainment. Experience and choose your own endless adventure. The Twilight Saga Midnight Ride at Lionsgate Entertainment World.
So to get to that really cool award-winning system, we had to kind of take a step back and look at what the problems were in the industry at the time that we started designing the ride. So in 2017, when we started designing this attraction, headsets were a big problem. We had limitations of weight, we had limitations of the resolution that you would get inside of the screen. They were, like I said before, most of them were an add-on to an existing attraction, so it wasn't really figured out. And then that led to connectivity problems, because now you have this headset that sometimes is charged, sometimes is not. It really depends on your operators, and you're really relying on the sometimes high school kids running these attractions to make sure that everything's working appropriately. The other thing is, when you go to a theme park, you want that social experience. You're usually not going to a theme park by yourself, you're going with a group. So you want to be able to see those other people. And the experience before was, yes, you might be next to your friend, having the exact same experience, but you can't look over, you can't interact with them. We knew that that was something that we wanted to challenge with our system. And then a lot of times also there was really no emotional arc. It was a story that was cladded on, didn't really make sense with the ride, sometimes had no story at all. So we knew that these were challenges that we had to face when we started looking at our ride system. So what did we do? So we worked with our vendors, and we actually created a mask that is handed to you similar to if you go on Toy Story Mania at Disneyland or Disney World, where they hand out glasses. We're handing you a mask that goes to your face. It has a ratcheting like a hard hat in the back, and it custom forwards to your face. So now you've gotten comfortable with this in the queue, and when you board the ride, the VR headset actually comes down and magnetically locks into the mask. So you've already become comfortable with it, you're already familiar with it. It helps us with our throughput, which is a big problem in theme parks. You have to get people through the ride to make it a worthwhile attraction. And that sped everything up because everybody had those things. So you didn't have to fight with people putting on these headsets for the very first time and unfamiliar with the pieces. Because we now have that tethered, we got rid of our connectivity problems. We could use the latest tech. We didn't have to stick with the wireless systems. So that headset is always wired, and it comes down to you. When you're done at the end of the ride, you unclick it, and it goes back up into the ceiling for the next rider. And then the social aspect. We actually were able to create embodiment of you and 3 of your friends that you came to the ride with. So you can look to your left, look to your right, you can wave, you can see portions in the ride where things are happening to your buddy. You get a social experience where you're having it. It's not just a one-off experience that everybody's having individually. Yes, you're having it together, but an individual experience. And then as a studio, what's very important to us is the emotional arc. So we included a storyline where you start off with the wolves. You're going out there, you're basically bait, right? You're trying to lure out the newborn vampire army. And so you go out with the wolves, and of course you confront them. There's a big battle. You think everything is lost, but in the end, of course, we have to win. Mm-hmm. So here's some of the other things that we looked at with the ride development, and this is really how Lionsgate approaches a lot of our LB projects. We have agency. There's a lot of paths to choose from, which is different than a lot of other rides. So as you can even choose on this ride system to full throttle coming out of the garage and wheelie going out of there because you pegged your accelerator on the handle.
And I highly recommend it if you ever visit the park in China that you do that.
It's a lot more fun. Or you can just go along and just steer along, and we will bring you along at the right point so that you always hit the story moments when you need to. Social, like I said, you can see your friends. Cinematic, we'll get into that a little bit later. And then iconic, we knew we had to bring in our iconic locations, our iconic talent. So we incorporated Jacob Black, Taylor Lautner into this ride system. So he's talking to you at the very beginning, telling you what you need to do on the ride. So here's a little bit more of like how we got into the design process and what we did to really make this ride stand out. So the avatars, our custom avatars, you're dressed in motocross gear. So it kind of gives a reason for why you just put a helmet or a mask on. So you're in a helmet. Different colors. The colors actually sync to the bikes that you boarded before you put on the mask. So that's all tied together. The wolves, we made these wolves the size that they needed to be to make them feel really intimidating, even sitting on a bike when you're sitting there and at first the wolves come in and they kind of pad around you. And they're pretty large wolves, and pretty crazy. Taylor Lautner, we spent a lot of time getting him exactly right, making sure that every muscle, every detail was exactly in the right place. And so we achieved that and to bring that to our fans. And then, like I said, iconic locations. You're in Taylor Lautner's garage from the films. So here's some more shots of some of the cinematic aspects that we did. Starting on the top left, that's Jacob in his garage. Again, the doors open up, and here come the wolves. You can hear them padding and howling around outside before the doors open. Now you're out on the ride, and as we're working to the right. So this is you with your little light going out in the darkness, and you can choose various paths. So you can go off some jumps. You can follow the wolves to just create more options on that ride system. Bottom left is when you confront the newborn army, and then now the last two are the cinematic kind of ending where, again, you think all hope is lost, but then Jacob actually, one of the cool moments is you'll actually see Jacob transform from human into wolf in the ride, and we have that moment there too.
Cool, thanks, Gene.
Yeah.
And I think, hopefully just taking you through that singular case study of one of our award-winning attractions, you can see that the content that we create at Lionsgate really is known for being original, daring, and groundbreaking, and the way that we approach the guest experiences that we're creating, the fan experiences that we're creating across our business is the same, right? We're trying to do things that really target the way that our fans want to engage with content. And when you think about consumers today, they're extraordinarily digital savvy, technologically savvy, media savvy, and so it's really important to us that we're not disregarding these things as we design ways for them to engage the content kind of beyond the film screen and the TV screen. The other thing that we're very self-aware of is we live in a creator economy, right? Everybody wants to create their own stories, make their role in a story pertinent, even if it's another IP. And so we see a lot of user-generated content, fan creations, fan fiction. And instead of ignoring all of that, as studios often do, why not take those cues and listen to our fans and give them what they want? And so this next project that Lucianne is going to take you through is a partnership that we forged with a company called Dorian. They're an interactive storytelling app. And through this app, we're allowing fans to create their own stories around our IP, and they become games that people can play. And so Lucianne's going to take you through Dorian and what we've done there.
Thanks, Jen. So I wanted to take a really quick poll here. How many of you have heard of Blair Witch? Raise your hands. Great. Can you believe that Blair Witch is actually a 22-year-old property today, or this year, but it is really an iconic franchise that has represented horror in cinematic experiences for multiple generations. So we wanted to bring this opportunity to fans who have dreamt about writing their own stories in our IP world. Blair Witch being a great example, because when we first launched the film, it had an amazing marketing campaign. People couldn't tell if this was real or fiction. So in being able to experience that, they could also, your imagination could run wild. Well, we partnered with Dorian to bring our IP to their storytelling platform to allow users to generate their own stories, and we actually put a spin to it, reintroducing it to our modern day. So here's a prompt that we shared with the community. It's, will you survive the witch? Horror tourists and fans congregate in Burkittsville, Maryland for a 3-day Blair Witch-themed music festival. Seances, rituals, and spooky-themed scavenger hunts fill the once frightening Black Hills forest. As a hit horror streamer, you think you can brave just about anything, everything, right? Your plan? Break the internet by taking on the Survive the Witch challenge. The horrific twist? The festival's organizers have something wicked in store for the young influencers in attendance. Will you and your crew survive a night in the Black Hills forest, or end up live streaming your own deaths?
Dun, dun, dun.
So we wanted to merge this with the community within Dorian, who actually allows audience of color, women, storytellers, writers to engage with themes in the Blair Witch, attending Blair Witch Fest, and writing their own story of what happens at that festival, whether there's a love interest or whether there's spooky things that happen with the Blair Witch haunting you. It's very open-ended, and as Jen mentioned, a lot of studios would be terrified to let people run with that idea.
Totally.
But we took that and wanted to make it special, and we actually just recently launched this campaign. It premiered during Halloween, and I'm excited to say the initial stories have just been published today. But it was a writing competition. We wanted people to engage with that content and make it their own. In addition, Dorian is a special platform because those writers, once they get people to play and reach certain metrics, they actually can monetize that content. And I don't think people have really been allowed to monetize Hollywood IP content in their own voice in this way before. So that's quite exciting. Just wanted to show some things that have gone into the game. These are outfits and inspiration from Blair Witch costuming that have gone into the game. You'll see there's like plaid shirts, camping-like gear, but also blending in with festival wear of today's world. Darker themes, but really playful for any user to customize how their avatar looks in the game. Here, we also created new assets that represent the Blair Witch universe, but also in the festival ground. So from the left, you'll see the woods. It has the iconic totems or twanas from our universe. Next to that is the outside of the Blair Witch cabin. In the middle, you'll see the inside of the cabin, and the second to the right is the basement of the cabin. And then to the very far right, that is the festival bar. So players can actually use any of these backgrounds in their scene of their story. When putting together their story, there's no coding involved. So that's pretty nice as a general user who doesn't code to go into the system, pull some backgrounds, enter text, and then animate it, and include choice selections for you to play through and navigate through your own story your way. I also want to share a video, another feature of Dorian that is incredibly unique, and a bigger reason why we partnered with them, to show you, after the finished product, how users can play those stories.
Feel right.
You can still hear the sound of someone crying, but it's now a soft whimper. You look to the side and see a tent. The doorway is zipped, but the sides are slashed, as if someone tried to tear their way free. I'm going in.
Damn.
Ooh, I don't know. Ooh, I feel like, be careful.
I don't want him to think that we care about him. I don't care if he's
Just make him look in first.
Yeah, send him. Tracy saying we should be careful.
If there's like a Medusa in there, he can take the brunt.
Oh, Lane.
I dare you to stick your hand in.
Don't be idiots. This is serious. He circles around the tent, peering in the window. Oh, hey.
What is it?
Oh, just the sticks that's been shut door. Enough, Liam. Wait. He leans closer to the tent, peering through the cracks, then pulls upright. His face is slack with horror. Run! You don't hesitate. You run as fast as you can, back towards the cabin. Your heart pounds in your chest. You almost feel like you can hear a voice in your ear. Don't leave me so soon. You avoided a death threat.
Glad you picked that one. The death event wouldn't have been good for us to watch.
So to provide a bit of background, if you didn't know what was going on, there are a lot of talking heads and things like that. The Dorian platform allows for you and your friends to play together and video stream while you make choices. You can discuss and deliberate, and then there's a countdown on what the final choice should be as you play through. That's actually a very special experience, because not only do you get to play with your friends, you may have influence in where the direction of the story goes. So we really are kind of doubling down on that interactive experience that you get within the community. I feel like there are a lot of other storytelling apps out there, but Dorian has this unique technology that we really fell in love with, and we have ourselves played through characters and acted scenes out. We've heard stories of how playwriters, screenwriters, they can also kind of test their scenes out. So in the spirit of storytelling and content creating, this is an amazing platform that allows users to express those creative ideas, and also work with Lionsgate IP. Blair Witch being one of them. There's a lot of horror enthusiasts, and typically many would assume that horror fans are male skewed, but actually in running this competition, we found that a lot of the female writers participated, and they have been really vocal about how cool it is to play with IP in the Discords. They're sharing their stories. One contestant, actually, she grew up in the Burkittsville area, and she's always known about this legend. She actually went out and interviewed people and explored the area personally herself. She went to the store where one of the characters, Heather, in the Blair Witch film, did an interview about Rustin Parr, and she talked to that storekeeper. Then the person who this is in real life, there's there are Blair Witch tours that are hosted in Burkittsville. That person happened to know that this Dorian/Blair Witch contest was happening and spread the message. So we're seeing a lot of convergence of that real life and social and interactive play merged together. And we're super excited because who knows, this could actually inspire our studio to do more with it. Now that it's within our users' hands to take it where they want to take it and ground it within the Blair Witch themes, I dare I say, can we have a Blair Witch Fest in the next few years?
One would hope, yeah. Buy your tickets soon.
So in terms of storytelling, engaging with our fans and having them kind of 360 come back and be a part of this creative process, Dorian and Lionsgate is just one example of how we're building and pushing the boundaries of what we know IP to be, especially with Hollywood IP. I know I've talked a lot about Dorian, but I do want to also share that our games and interactive business, this Blair Witch title, over 20 years old, we've actually released a number of different games and projects in various formats for various platforms. It stemmed from our PC console game developed by Bloober. We premiered it at E3 2019 on the Microsoft stage. It is an indie game. It got a lot of press buzz. Fans were super excited to even see a horror game on that stage. It then, in the first year of release, had over 1 million players play. In success, we decided to extend that into a tabletop subscription game where it is really interactive. You are an investigator. You get these pieces of material to actually physically decipher and determine like what happened in the Black Hills Forest. We also then turned the Blair Witch game into a VR experience that launched during Halloween of 2020. And then Blair Witch and Dorian came about, and I'm going to pass it over to Jen to talk about another.
Yeah, and as I mentioned previously, like creating that content ecosystem and sort of what we created as part of the Blair Witch game actually fed into a physical escape experience that you can go do in Las Vegas. So Escape Blair Witch opened this past summer, and 2 years after the game came out, like the inspiration for that is now a physical manifestation. And so I think this slide, we're talking about one IP, but if you really see the big picture here, it's about creating an entire ecosystem around a world that people love. And for us, like XR has been a big part of a lot of the ecosystems we've created around our IP. I think we're unique as a studio in that, in terms of the way that we've approached integrating innovative technologies. A lot of times people say, you guys are so next generation. I think that's the wrong way to look at it. We're this generation, right? Next generation, we're talking about the metaverse a lot today, right? I've been in a lot of panels and a lot of meetings, and that's a hot topic. I mean, XR is part of the way that people are consuming content. And so, we've thought about that a lot. It doesn't work for every IP, but for a lot of our IP, it does. And it really is about finding the most kind of authentic, organic ways to engage with our fans. And as I said earlier, being able to expand the world through incredible media experiences, augmented reality, virtual reality, like it's such an important storytelling tool if harnessed in the right way. And that's really where we focused our energy. How do we use these tools that are available to us in new ways, in ways that will help push the story forward and allow fans to create their own story within the context of our IP frameworks, as we did with Dorian. So I think we can flip to the last slide and say thank you for attending. We hope that what we've shared has been insightful, and that you can see that the way that we're approaching this space is very different from a lot of other IP holders and studios, but we're really excited about what we've done to date and kind of what's on the horizon for us. So I would say stay tuned to the projects that we're launching and working on, and we're excited to see what so many of you are doing in the space too. So I think we'll open it up to questions.
All right, let's give them a round of applause. Hello? Let's give them a round of applause, everybody. Thank you very much. That's great. So we got 2 mics up here. If anyone wants to ask any questions, feel free to come up. Don't be afraid. They don't bite. Yeah, we got a few minutes for questions. I know I've never been brave enough to watch Blair Witch Project, so I'm definitely not going to go into a VR experience. That is for sure. So, any question? Oh, there we go. One question.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Thanks for presenting all this. I really enjoy the fact that you were looking at, in the case of the motorcycles, I think it was, you talked about the goggles, the mask, like snapping in, I believe. Like,
yeah.
So that whole friction is really a huge hurdle, I think, for all the cool experiences that we as XR people make. You have to put the headset on, it hurts and whatever.
Yeah.
So
Right.
that was really nice to see that you thought through that and you had multiple generations of that actually. Any idea on what would be the next breakthrough there to make things even smoother?
I'd put it back to all the people here, right? What's the next step? But I mean, that headset was innovative. The company that developed it and kind of in conjunction with us they took 1,000 facial mapping actually, so that they got the mask right. And if any of you go to China and have the fortunate ability to go on the ride, make sure if you find an attendant to ask them for the Western mask versus the normal mask that they use, because it actually fits differently, because our faces are different than the faces that are typically there. But yes, it helps. It speeds up everything. It helps our throughput. We did put in 2 garages with 12 bikes, so that also helps. So we start getting into the numbers that you need for a theme park to survive, where it's usually been a problem in the past. And that's why VR hasn't worked, is because, again, the time that it takes for somebody to put on that mask and get comfortable. But if they already have this thing, they have time in the queue to put it on, get it adjusted, make sure it's right, get a different one if it's not, and then it just snaps in. We can board people on those rides so much faster.
And I would say to all of you that are designing in this space, this is a mass market attraction, right? We get all walks of people at the theme park, many of whom, China is unique. I think it's a very VR savvy place. And so we knew we wanted to integrate a lot of these technologies into the attractions that we created there. That being said, I mean, there are grandmothers and people that have never seen VR that are riding these motorbikes. And so the comfort and I think the ease, the easier that we can make these things, right? And that was really a goal, as Jean said, having that helmet, and it adjusts much like, PPE gear, right? So it's very easy, you just twist it, and then you don't have to worry about kind of having, something on your face that feels heavy and uncomfortable. And so I think, what we're excited about is how do we even continue to evolve that further and make it just as seamless as possible for guests, so that it doesn't feel like it's a barrier to entry to wanting to experience these, stories told in this way.
And then all those masks are also, they can go into your industrial dishwasher and get washed, so that for the next, they have, 600, 700 of them there, and they can just keep cycling through the washing, so they can keep putting them out for the next group to come in, and you're getting a sanitized piece that you're not having to worry about. The only thing they have to go around and now wipe down the little headset for the brief time that you touch it on your hands.
I was going to ask this. Thank you so much. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Cool. Any other questions? Feel free to come on. Bree, do you have a question? Bella, do you have a question?
No. Come on.
Come on, ask a question. Yes. I'm going to start calling up. I already did start calling up people.
So it's always an obstacle for theater owners, especially now, to get people to come to the theater. Are there any technologies that can be standardized to link on to current films? Like a queue where you switch out the LED screens or augmented reality, or can you name some tools that you're maybe working on, or like, for instance, the Dirty Dancing experience? So that's something that's catered to just that. But is there something like that you can, I don't know, trade out set pieces, or
For virtual reality experiences or things of that nature?
to bring people to the cinema?
Yeah.
I've seen some companies, I don't know if Lionsgate's involved, but where they have some theaters that have a queue, and they walk through and they actually see some props and then some LED screens that get them involved or kind of psyched up to see the film.
I mean, your question is interesting because on some level, as much as we want to bring people to the theaters, also some of the work that our team does is like, how do we bring the theaters to people who aren't in the theaters, right? And so we're like working both ways. We've definitely done experiential add-ons. I think Secret Cinema actually is a great example because it at its core is a film screening. But with that film screening comes 3 additional hours of you being immersed in that world, right? We've set up a physical manifestation of Kellerman's, and you can eat and drink and experience kind of all the activities you would that then sets the stage. And so I do think you're going to see more of that. You know, we're starting to see a lot more events pop up here in North America. I think that in other parts of the world, there has been much more progression towards those types of lead-in experiences. And I think, theaters, there are definitely lots of conversations that we've had, and dating back years ago to movie theaters in China, how can we, because theaters are only being used, oftentimes during peak periods, like, how can you also create experiences that not only lead into the movie, but that capitalize on that real estate, right? But tie back into the film. And so things like, exhibits, walkthrough experiences that are themed to the IP are all, I think, great ways to drive audience interest. Oftentimes they tend to sort of be part of the marketing campaign as opposed to sort of maybe a long-term attraction, but we're always thinking about what can we create as part of the marketing campaign that kind of live beyond that, right? And so we're certainly looking at things like that and have done some of it in connection with films that we've released.
Thank you. Have you seen it was the sequel to Blade Runner where they had the walk-in queue and it was kind of like a display, but you would say that that's all marketing. It's nothing that's been standardized or... Yeah,
a lot of that is coming through the marketing campaign, and I would say in other parts of the world, I think it's actually more common, and it's funny that it isn't happening here more, but I think, I think you will start to see things like that more. As you may have noted, over the last probably, I'd say really since the start of the pandemic, there are just more film and TV immersive experiences that have been popping up. And I think that is going to spill over to a greater extent in the way that people are sort of expecting to feel and have those experiences when they go see a movie as well.
Great answer. Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much for all the answers you've given so far. I had a question. About a few years ago, I visited the 20th Century Fox lot, and I got a tour around what was then their kind of future for immersive entertainment. And one of the things I remember seeing then, I think the Martian VR Experience was just out. I don't know if you guys probably remember that. I thought that was kind of a watershed moment where we saw what VR could do, what immersive entertainment could do. And I sat down with a number of the people that worked on that and that just worked in the studio in general, and one of the questions that I asked them was, are you guys looking at this not just in the marketing side of things? What I try to do is look at it from an asset production standpoint. So we're building a movie, and we've got this huge pool of digital assets. How can we use a set piece that we've already invested so much money in? And is there a way that we can convert that into an immersive experience? Is there a way that you could, even for a snippet of that film, give the user the feeling of control? What if this would have happened there? What we can't do in film, agency, is what we can do in virtual reality.
Yep.
Are you exploring that? And are you also looking at that broader perspective not just saying, great, we have the movie, now let's add. We always do this add-on thing with immersive, right? It's like, great, we have the movie,
Right.
oh, and now we have an AR experience.
Right.
What I'm looking for, are there executives out there who are actually looking to think about this from the ground up? We've got 3 or 4 set pieces in this movie. Let's say Mission Impossible, Tom Cruise is going to scale yet another place, and from the get-go, we know there needs to be an immersive response, and we can include it in marketing, but it's actually going to give, it's going to give the audience so much more feeling. Are you guys thinking about that, those types of things?
I mean, we definitely are, and I think, Gene, you can weigh on
Right.
this too, but our team is uniquely set up in that we actually oversee the production assets. And it's not like this at any other studio. Most studios have archivists, and the production team is sort of separate, that's managing all those post-production assets. At our studio, we've structured it in a way, and Gene oversees this as part of his group. Those assets come through us because we want to be able to use them in our projects, not just the digital assets, but even the physical assets.
Yeah, so we have a project at the MotionGate theme park that she mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, where we actually took the artwork and the designs made by Phil Messina when he was designing the Hunger Games, and we took those designs and we brought them into a 180-degree immersive theater where you're on a ride system. We're using the exact same template he's using. We're using his buildings, and then we're expanding that world because he only had to build the main drag, and we needed you to fly all over the city. So we're expanding on everything like that. But we are definitely tied into that. When we were looking at some of the other properties like Robin Hood, we were there. We were getting all the VFX as they were coming down, because if that had been a bigger hit than it was, we were ready to blow it out and do all these crazy things. So our studio is. I'm not sure every studio is, but we definitely are thinking that way.
Having talked to quite a few, you are the first to actually totally embrace that. And with the amount of technology we have nowadays to also measure, engage audience appreciation of that, eye tracking, things like that.
Yep.
Yeah. Would love to chat to you guys sometime, but thank you so much.
Lucianne, you guys are using them for games.
On the game side
as well, in terms of production sets and all things like that, that's incredibly helpful for our game development partners to visualize exactly what the scale is, every little detail. John Wick, for example, we released a John Wick strategy game. We had the director and producer of the game come and actually train with the same crew that trained Keanu in the gun fu fighting. They went to do weapons training. They really understand and are immersed in that universe that we put our talent in.
So great to hear that, because at the time we were talking to 20th Century Fox about them, and then the Disney acquisition happened, and it was basically So
I think we had an example of that a month in the last couple of weeks. Games was looking for a costume for an upcoming thing that they're doing, and they went to production, and production was like, actually, you should go talk to LBE. And we actually had the costume. It's in storage. We could take photos of it, give it back to them, so that the gamer could develop off of the actual costume that we still have.
I think
that didn't get sold off to somebody or taken home and somebody.
Thank you so much, and would love to hear more.
Thank you.
Lucianne, Jenefer, Gene, thanks so much for coming out. Thanks for doing the talk. Everybody, give them a round of applause.
Thank you, everyone.